I ask that Provost Jameson to install our honorary degree recipient and commencement speaker, Aradhna Malhotra Oliphant, with the honorary doctorate of humane letters.
Mr. President, it is my honor to introduce our honorary degree recipient for 2016, Aradhna Malhotra Oliphant. Ms. Oliphant is President and Chief Executive Officer of Leadership Pittsburgh. As head of Leadership Pittsburgh, Ms. Oliphant guides the organization in its mission of strengthening regional leadership in southwestern Pennsylvania through programs, partnerships, and connections. Over its 30-year history, Leadership Pittsburgh has produced over 2,000 informed and engaged leaders and linked them with opportunities to help serve our region. Oliphant is herself a graduate of the program and a frequent speaker on leadership and regional issues. Before taking charge at Leadership Pittsburgh in 2004, Ms. Oliphant was a program officer for the Forbes Funds, a supporting organization of Pittsburgh Foundation that focuses on enhancing the management capacity of human service and community development organizations. She was executive director of the Children's Festival Chorus in Pittsburgh before that, and she led an arts organization in Princeton, New Jersey. She has also taught as an adjunct professor of management and psychology at both Rider University and the College of New Jersey. Deeply committed to community building, Ms. Oliphant is actively engaged with the academic, public policy, corporate, and nonprofit sectors, serves on numerous boards and committees. She served on the transition team for Governor Tom Wolf last year and was appointed to the Allegheny County Government Review Commission, which evaluates the government's effectiveness, efficiency, and equity. She was named to the top 25 women in business by Pittsburgh Business Times in 2009 and won a Golden Quill that year for her writing in Pittsburgh Quarterly. Born and raised in India, Ms. Oliphant holds an MBA from Rutgers University, an MA in psychology from Bhopal University. She and her husband, Heinz Endowment's President Grant Oliphant, and their family reside in Squirrel Hill. Mr. President, we now proceed with the hooding ceremony. I now present Aradhna Malhotra Oliphant. Will the hood marshals please come forward? Dr. Daria Jacobs and Dr. William Beaver will be assisting in the hooding. Would Mr. Stephen Clemish, Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees, and Ms. Wendy Beckemeyer, Vice President for Enrollment Management, please come forward to assist? Would the candidate please stand and join the hood marshals? Mr. President, please confer the honorary degree, Doctor of Humane Letters, upon Aradhna Oliphant.
Mrs. Oliphant, by this degree, we recognize your many contributions to the communities of Western Pennsylvania. I know I speak for the trustees when I express my personal gratitude for your wisdom in matters of extreme importance to the Pittsburgh and Allegheny County community. You got two rookies up here, unfortunately. We apologize for that. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our newest doctoral recipient for Robert Morris University, Dr. Oliphant. Podium is yours.
Wow, what an honor. It's totally overwhelming, totally overwhelming. Thank you again. Thank you. President Howard, Provost Jameson, Vice Chair of the Board, Steve Clemish, faculty, staff of Robert Morris, thank you. Thank you for this invitation, really, what an honor. And especially to all of you, the class of 2016, and your families and friends, thank you for letting me share this moment with you. What an honor and joy it is to receive this degree, my goodness, along with the privilege of speaking with you today on this special day. When you prepare a graduation speech, you get loads of advice, and it is unfailingly consistent. As one friend of mine put it, you can be profound or you can be funny, but what really counts is that you be brief. So I'll give it a shot, and I don't know that it'll hit the mark from where you are sitting. You may not find it brief enough, but I do hope that the next 10 minutes or so will offer something of value in the bargain. So the other day, I was working out at the gym, and there was some music playing, and I heard a song that just struck me. Closer to Fine by the Indigo Girls. It includes a line that I promise I will not sing, but the words are these: darkness has a hunger that is insatiable, and lightness has a call that's hard to hear, right? Darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, and lightness has a call that's hard to hear. That couplet stopped me cold while I was on my treadmill. I had to take some time to think about it because it resonated so deeply with me because of what I'm hearing from people around me these days. And sometimes I feel it myself, that these are complicated and dangerous times, that there is so much yelling and blaming and negativism and anger, that the voices of hope get drowned out, lost in the swirling darkness. The other day, a young person from the nonprofit arena put it to me this way: you know, Aradhna, he said, the problems are just so much bigger than they used to be. They are global, it's the whole planet, it's politics, it's everything. How are we supposed to deal with that? I think we all hear sentiments like that frequently these days, and very often, someone will trot out William Butler Yeats's poem, The Second Coming, which refers to things falling apart, the center not holding, anarchy being loosed upon the world. What people forget is that Yeats wrote that poem in 1919, in the wake of the First World War, at a time of unprecedented human brokenness. Yet, somehow, the world has navigated through another century, through new horrors and wars, yes, but along the way in fits and starts discovering modern medicine, global travel, global communications, new sources of energy, endless innovation, civil and human rights, and on down a list of imperfectly achieved but defining advances that should leave no one pining for the quote-unquote good old days. I suspect that the world has always felt slightly out of control and beyond our reach, and that will only continue. But in my experience, it is not the world that defines us. It is, rather, the stories we tell ourselves about our place in that world, about our efficacy as individuals, about our capacity to influence what's happening around us in the world. The American writer Pearl S. Buck wrote that one faces the future with one's past. And most of our stories about our personal agency come from our past. I know, for me, I could share the story of my past in a number of different ways. I could share a story of hardship, of growing up female in a country, culture, and time that made me feel more object than person, of mutely suffering the sort of horrors girls tragically do in a repressed and paternalistic culture, of having my options limited because I was just a girl, and then to get this degree. Or I could tell a story of privilege, of growing up in a family of means and influence, of at least learning a foreign language, English, by the way, thanks to my mother, that most Indian children then didn't, of being an engineer's daughter and watching my father's pride in making real things, of coming to America and having two beautiful sons who are my greatest joy. Or I could share a story of awakening, of a slow dawning inside myself that I wanted something, a career of my own, that I was capable and I had work to do, of finding a group of women friends who saw a spark in me and breathed life into it, of reaching out and asking for help, and time and time and time again being blessed to find people who reach back to me with a helping hand, of eventually finding a role at Leadership Pittsburgh that fed my desire to help others connect with their deepest potential and with each other for the sake of the community. The fact is, all three of these stories are my story. And I'm grateful for them all because, as Pittsburgh's own Fred Rogers used to remind us, these stories, even the hard ones, make us who we are. We are so many stories, you and I. When we don't acknowledge them, we rob ourselves of the beautiful complexity, the many narratives that give life such possibility. I see this all the time early on in our Leadership Pittsburgh classes. We attract bright, accomplished, strong-willed men and women, individuals who would never, ever see themselves as powerless in their chosen professions, but who can turn to jelly when we introduce them to difficulties facing our community. Sometimes they look to me and demand to know, what am I going to do about those challenges? As though someone has put me in charge of the world. Or they ask why the government or the schools or the universities are not doing what needs to be done to make everything better. They say as though if only someone, anyone, could take charge. My task, the task of cultivating real leaders, is to put the question gently, and sometimes not so gently, back in their laps, where those questions belong. More often than not, a beautiful thing happens. They suddenly, these same individuals, find themselves nested in community, connecting with each other, and caring deeply about a world beyond themselves. And in those connections, they discover a transcendent gift, the power to deal with seemingly unanswerable questions. They begin to realize that when they can do alongside others, they can accomplish the feats that they couldn't once imagine taking on alone. They begin to weave a new story of possibility. Here's an irony that, especially the graduate students, you would appreciate. I finished my first master's degree at the age of 20 and then spent the next 20 years of my life feeling utterly powerless. It wasn't until all those years later, after I had reclaimed a sense of personal identity, thanks to a community of people who saw value in me, that I remembered what my master's thesis had been about. It was about self-efficacy. It was about asserting responsibility for your work and life. When I look back on that younger me now, that eager young graduate student, I know she was telling herself a story she didn't believe was possible for her, but deep down, hoped would one day come true. And in time, when she learned to own that story once more, it did. These are indeed complicated times when we may sometimes rightly feel lightness as a call that's hard to hear. But make no mistake, you are not, any of you, voices lost in the din. To the contrary, I'm excited by what I see in the years ahead, especially when in my job and here I get to meet bright, curious, driven women and men like you. As you leave here, you are going to be asked to be experts, those who are graduating, to be specialists, to narrow yourselves down to even finer pinpoints of deep impact. Do that. Do that because a complex, changing world needs experts, each doing their part. But my wish for you is that you will also embrace your own personal beautiful complexity, that you will never shy from the questions you cannot answer right away because they are the questions. Those are the questions that lead us to the unpredictable places where true discovery happens. Later in that same Indigo Girl song that I mentioned at the beginning, they sing, "There is more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line." There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. Graduates of the class of 2016, congratulations on what you have achieved and what you will achieve in the years ahead as you travel this gloriously, wildly crooked line that we call life. Thank you.